The name says it all.
Table Talk Show with Nikki G and Juliette.
Nikki G and Juliette. Our show is a new brand of talk shows where we educate, bring transparency, and last but not least, fun. Table Talk.
Hey guys, welcome to Table Talk Show with Nikki G and Juliette. We've had an amazing run with a lot of guest artists. You know, it's been so like, I don't want to use the word eclectic. It's been like a total range of people that has been, I'm going to stop using the word amazing because I see we use amazing all the time. Talented, beautiful, open, honest, just great individuals.
Yeah, and their stories have been amazing. And I want to just say that the one thing they all have in common so far is they just wanted to do this thing and dropped everything and just went for it. They put it out there. This is what they wanted to do. And once they knew what they wanted to do, they went for it. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
They persevered through. I haven't really heard a sad story of struggles. Most people, even if they struggle, I guess the upside was better than the downsides, or the upside just outshined the downsides, you know?
Yeah, so true.
So before we introduce or say who we're gonna, interview, Juliette, how was your week?
My week so far has been really uneventful. I mean, it's the usual. I work from home still. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. The only thing is that sometimes I just don't see people other than my daughter when she comes home. But other than that, I mean, look, I cannot complain. It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful, amazing. And you know what? God has blessed me to get up every day and I'm in perfect health. So it's been amazing. What about you, Nix?
That's, it's, I said I'm going to not use the word amazing. You see that? It's been eventful for me because one highlight of my day was doing a tree that shows how grateful you are or what you're grateful for. Mm-hmm. And today is one of those days that we actually put up the tree to say, okay, we're grateful and fortunate for having whatever it is, if it's family, friends, and so forth, But I say mine was eventful because I went by Juliette.
Yes, she did.
We did a lot of, we had some background work to do. We had some interviews. We had contacts. It's just a few things catching up to do and stuff like that. And I went out, I saw my friends. I'm like, I'm not staying home.
And let's not forget the interview we did. Oh my God, we did an interview with Amari Lewis.
Yes.
You'll know who he is when he gets on here.
Yes.
Oh my God, we have not had so much fun in a very long time.
It was like almost 2 hours, it seemed like, when we interviewed him.
It did seem like that, but that's because we were having fun before we even started to record.
Exactly.
Hey, Amari.
Hey, Amari. So everything, I mean, going to Juliette's house, there was a place that we were supposed to go, but we decided, you know what, doing what we love was more important. And we got down to the nitty-gritty. We got everything done. And that's why being productive for me is very eventful, even if it's work, because we're doing what we love. We were supposed to go see Cass, but that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And we say everything, everything in its timing. Right?
It's time in its order. Yeah.
Right. So we have a special guest who's coming on. Her name is Tamara John. She's a producer. She has worked with NBC, HBO Max, Apple TV, OWN, WeTV, Bravo, Lifetime. The girl is a big deal. She's
phenomenal. Phenomenal woman.
You'll see what we talking about when she comes in. Up
shortly. Yeah, so keep it locked. Tamara John, guys.
Here are some of the shows that we're going to show you that Tamara did in the past, and some current shows, some highlights, some pictures, Because of policies, we can't show you too much. So you might probably see, or you will see more pictures than videos. We'll try to get you some clips. It will be a surprise to us too, because we don't know what we're gonna interject in there. But look at what we have in store. She is a freelance television producer based in Los Angeles. Welcome, Tamara.
Hello.
So how have you been? It's a privilege to have you on our show.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege for me to be here as well. I'm doing good, enjoying being in LA. We still have nice weather here, so it's been really nice.
Very good. Have you done anything like spectacular for the summer?
No, not really. I spent a majority of the summer, actually the whole summer working. So I guess if you consider that spectacular, but you know.
and especially because of COVID, did it slow you down, really?
No. Yes, shockingly, I've heard stories of COVID slowing a lot of people down. It did a little bit last year when it first started. I was working on a series, and we had actually just got back from, we're shooting in Austria for a month, and we got back right, and literally like, I think a week or two after we got back, the show shut down, and that's when like everything shut down for COVID, and while everybody was trying to figure out what was going on. So that, I was probably down, as with most people, I was down from work for maybe like until around June. So from March till June. And then it started like picking back up. So I started getting different jobs.
That's not bad at all. Because I know when it first started, everything was just shut down.
Yeah.
You know? No recordings, a lot of shows. I think they showed the first season, then the next season there was nothing.
Yeah. It's been a lot of that. So I think now productions have a better idea as to how things are, how to like work. At least they're trying to figure out how to work in this COVID environment, because it does add a whole different layer of stress in a sense to work. It's just everybody's job, you know, and wearing masks and being safe, especially because filming TV shows, majority of the cast members are unmasked. So then just really being strict with like COVID protocols and things for like the cast and the crew. It's really been a huge thing to kind of adjust to and adapt to.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I mean, I've been reading a lot on you, and I'm really amazed at the type of, you know, the fact that you're female, Black, from the Caribbean, the list just is, you're amazing. And I know that you're a field producer and senior segment producer. So I know not too many people would know what that is about. Can you just explain it just really quickly so that everyone will know exactly what you do? Or some of the what you do.
Is primarily responsible for pitching ideas. A lot of if you think of a series, they're composed, like a TV show is composed of a number of different, pretty much entirely segments. So there's different elements that go into that segment. There's an activity that the cast members might be doing. It might be, as you follow the story, there's different elements that take place, whether they're traveling, whether they're, whatever activity that they're doing is what essentially a segment producer then is organizing and managing and coordinating. So I started off with, my first segment producing job was The Real Housewives of Dallas. And that's a show that is 2 teams. So I was the only segment producer, which since then, this happens to me a lot where I do a job. And when I did it, I will say that when we first shot it, it was not initially a Real Housewives. It was not a part of the franchise. It became that after we finished shooting it. So now the show has like, I don't know, a whole, probably like multiple segment producers, at least a segment producer and an associate producer for support. When I did it, it was just me. So it was a lot of managing, a lot of like figuring it out, because I had worked previously as an associate producer, and I had co-created a series for a PBS station when I was in college, but this was a whole different capacity. So that's kind of how I started off with producing, at least in the freelance world. But when you see like senior segment producer, a lot of those shows are shows that I've managed the department. So as like lately, I've done a lot of shows where I'm the department head. So therefore, for example, the show where we were in, we filmed it in during the beginning of COVID times in Austria. I was the department head for the segment team. So that entails really managing a team of other producers. So I have a team of, in that show I had a team of 1, 2, 3 producers, but there's so many intricacies, because that show involved some games, which one of the amazing producers on our team kind of helped manage, but it's like overseeing the overall team and like you're tracking story, because of course you can't have a TV show without story. So you're tracking the story, but also planning ahead. You're in the moment. You're kind of in a bunch of different places as a producer, because even though let's say you're filming a party, or you're doing a Christmas date, because this is a dating show. So you're filming a Christmas date where they're going to go walking alpacas in the mountains of Austria. So I've coordinated that already, but then we also have stuff coming up. So we have a shoot that night that we're coordinating, or that I've already coordinated ideally. And then the next week I'm coordinating stuff, but I'm also thinking about the finale. And in that particular case, we were planning on shooting the finale in New York. This is before COVID hit and we had to cancel it, but we were planning, also having a lot of calls with, like, for example, the Empire State Building, and coordinating a shoot that was going to be there while managing all these different elements. So there's like a lot of different intricacies that goes into it. I believe that if you do your job really well in any producing capacity, nobody knows how hard you work, because it's so seamless, which is also happens, because I know people don't actually know what I do, because they're like, everything has worked so seamlessly, you know, which is really I will say that is always my prayer whenever I join a show, or I'm hired to do something. It's always my prayer to do an excellent job, and to, like, you know, to just be the best at what I'm doing. So if you look into a field producer, is a producer that's really following, and that's also different, I will say, depending on the show, as to how much you really manage with the team, but your focus is story. So you're working with the cast members very closely. You're, you know, talking with them, you're learning their story. You're also developing things, and like, as you track whatever that story is that you're following. A show that I did the first half of this year was a series called Married at First Sight. And for that show.
What's that show?
Did you watch the Houston season? Which season did you last watch?
I only just started watching little clips of it. I'm like, who's gonna do that? So I've been watching
people do
pieces of it. At first I thought, no way, but it grabbed me, because there's no way we can even think about marrying someone at first sight. These people did it. How did you even get the cast to figure out who's gonna match up with who? Who does that?
That's a very detailed process. The show has experts, and that kind of each of the cast members, the people that are brave enough to do that, and sign up for that, because that takes bravery.
Of course it does.
Because it could be a little, you know, it's a big thing, because you're committing yourself legally, because that's the thing. These are all legal marriages. They fill out a lot of paperwork, a lot of questionnaires. They do a ton of stuff. Wow. There's no work where the experts kind of go through and do their research and figure out who they think might be the best match. Out of whoever is in that season. You know, of course, some seasons you have folks. So sometimes you have seasons where people really get along, and or some couples within that season really get along. And there's even people that have had babies. There's like, I don't even know the amount of people who have babies.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and have found like their person, but then sometimes it's not successful. You know, it just depends. I think, you know,
we are going to definitely need your help, because we were thinking about doing
we've been
a
talking
segment
about
where,
it.
a single segment. And
Mhm.
then we
really?
just interviewed another friend of ours, Amari Lewis, and he
Yeah.
was actually speaking on the spiritual side of the connection, of connecting and what we should and shouldn't do spiritually and regular.
Yeah,
It
was a
trust
very
I kind of want to hear about that. That sounds very fascinating.
when we publish it, I'm definitely gonna send it to you.
Yes, you have to. That's so interesting. And what is his expertise? He's a relationship advisor?
Well, Omari is more, we know him from Bible study, believe it or not. Me and Nikki are in a Bible study group.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
great.
he's the founder of the Bible study group. And so he's coming from a biblical standpoint of how the two can come together.
Yeah.
So, because sometimes we as human beings go together by the way they look. But obviously, there's a whole lot that you got to look at. It's not just the way you look. It's the connection, that the spiritual connection that brings you together. And he gives you biblical facts.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, when is this episode coming out? This sounds great.
We just
taped it last night. Sunday night.
Okay.
Sunday night. So
it's going to be a while before, it's going to be at least 3 more weeks before it comes out. But I can't wait for people to hear it, because I know they're going to have some questions.
We should probably do the intro, because there's some segments, even with Casey, the producer.
Yeah.
Sometimes what we'll do, we'll put out segments just for people to get clips of it, because they're so interesting. We're so hyped to get them out. So we will do an intro and put it there to captivate people, you know?
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, I'm excited to see one of you guys do that one, because I do agree that there is something very important, especially when choosing, or, you know, a person. Yeah, mate. You know, because you definitely you want to choose the right person.
Right. And you've done it with 2 shows now. So you've done it with Love is Blind and Married at First Sight. Wow.
So a lot of the shows I've worked on, in the last couple of years, a lot of the shows that I've been working on have been a lot of dating shows or love shows. So I actually was like, oh my gosh, I actually need to take a little break from doing all these love shows, because you're really in people's business. And it's also good, I think, as a producer to explore different types of genres and things like that. But there is something that's very beautiful and fascinating when it comes to relationship shows, because you really do get to observe. And I find that as a producer, even though I'm like planning shoots and, you know, or working with cast members or people that are going through the situation, whatever that experience is, I find that I learn a lot about myself. So whether it's I'm learning, oh my gosh, you know, I definitely don't do this again, or don't say that.
It's true.
Yeah. Or if it's like, oh, that's an interesting way to communicate, you know, and maybe I should try that. And especially with Married at First Sight, we put the couples through, and the experts go through, do a number of different exercises with them, where you really learn a lot of things. And because they've married a stranger, so therefore they are, it's an accelerated relationship. So they're getting to know somebody, whereas most people might take years to get to know someone. They're getting to know someone in a week's time. They're literally, you know, it's really, really expedited. It's really, really accelerated. So then they go through a different process of asking questions and maybe talking about like finances or certain things that typically people don't ask when they've just known somebody for a week, you know? So it really is kind of interesting. And it has taught me as well different ways in which it's important to communicate certain things with your partner, because that also kind of hopefully sets up your relationship for success, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not an expert, but I'm learning still, you know?
Yeah, I think if you're putting yourself out there on a show like that, you definitely want it to be successful, or at least, you know, the outcome.
It's a lot to put through, and then you're also leaving yourself very vulnerable.
Exactly.
People are very critical. So people are going to judge you if you say something wrong, if you act a certain way, if they feel whatever they feel. People, especially on social media, could be very mean and critical.
Yeah.
And that's also something, you know, to take it, like, you know, sadly that does happen. So to put yourself out there really is quite quite risky, but it also takes a lot, and it takes a lot of bravery.
Yeah, I actually wanted to start from the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna track back. I mean, everything that you're talking about is like really exciting, but I always want to get to the nitty-gritty of how it started from childhood. What catapulted you into the industry, and what was your drive, for saying, yes, I want this to be my career?
So I feel I have always been a very creative child. So I've always liked art type things or movies. My aunt actually used to call me out, I don't know if you know TV, like a pyong. When somebody would be like, oh, yeah, so one of my aunts actually used to call me a TV pyong. And I was like,
yeah. That's
okay, because I really enjoyed watching TV, I enjoyed it. And now to know I was actually studying. So it was that I love TV so much. But it was kind of said in like almost like a negative way is how I took it. But so I just enjoyed TV. I used to love Barbies, and I used to have Barbie episodes where I would have very whole storylines taken.
Oh, that's cute.
I really was in love with it, and I thought I knew I wanted to do something with like creatively. I was like, oh, maybe I can model. I was like, nah, that's not really my thing. And then I was like, oh, maybe I could do like fashion design. I'm like, no, that's not really my thing either. Like all these things, and this is like when I was much younger, kind of exploring different artsy things. And then it was, I took my first TV class when I was in high school. I'd actually done a lot of theater throughout high school. And I kind of actually took all of the theater classes that you could take. So I was kind of over with, that part. And I had a TV class my school offered. So I took the class, and it was also coincided with the time where it was my senior trip. And I decided a friend of mine and I decided to go with my family, of course, to Trinidad for Carnival. So we went, and my dad had just purchased a, those old like kind of
camcorders,
So my dad had gotten one of those, and I just loved it. And I had so much fun. You put the tape in, and and I just had the best time going around and like shooting different things with the camera. And then when I got back, I decided to make a project out of it for my TV class. So I made like a music video basically with, I want to say it was like, I feel like it was a Destra song, like an old Destra song,
Oh, nice.
So I made this music video, and what I found to be the most exciting thing for me was that a lot of my classmates, I went to school in a predominantly white school. So a lot of the people, silly enough, would say, like, when I say, yeah, my family's, from Trinidad, and they'd say, is that in Africa? Like, nobody knew. And so it'd be like, they just didn't know for whatever reason, or they just assumed a Black person was, you must be from
everybody's
Africa.
from Africa.
So I also saw creating this as an opportunity, because I kind of started it off with like, showing like a map and things like that to kind of also educate them on the Caribbean, and that there's, or they'd always say Jamaica. Everybody feels like Juliette, everybody always thinks everybody is
Jamaican. That is true.
I don't know why. I don't know.
One thing I've always been very sure about was that I wanted to work in television. I wanted to work in this business because I truly believe that my purpose is to create content that inspires and encourages and helps people and impacts the world. And that's really and truly my goal, is to create content that's impactful and like really transforms lives. Immediately, I chose a college actually that had a program that specialized in TV production. And then I ended up going to school. I studied TV production, but I also like Spanish, so I studied Spanish too. And then I ended up staying at the same school and did my master's there too. And I was like, so it wasn't until, because I wasn't sure necessarily what part of TV I wanted to work in. So there's, because there's editing, you could be an editor, you could be a camera operator, you could work in sound, you could work in lighting. There's so many different parts that makes up a team. So it wasn't until I was in grad school and there was an opportunity, really and truly, I had heard that they were looking, I had a grad fellowship. And the first year I was a teaching assistant. So I like helped out with one of the professors. And I didn't want to do that the second year. It was cool, but I was like, okay, this doesn't really help me professionally. So, I had heard that the school I went to was like had a PBS station for that region, like the Southern Illinois.
Oh, that's how you, okay.
Yeah, so it had a whole, like, I think the station hits about like covers like basically PBS for like, or like is a PBS representative then for about 5 states in that area, 4 or 5 states. And the director there was looking for a grad student to help him because they wanted to start creating more original content.
Yeah.
So I was very bold-faced, and I like went to meet him in his office, and I said that I really wanted the job. And then I got the job. So together we co-created this art series. So it was like really amazing. And for me, it solidified for me, like, I really want to do this. Like, I'm loving this so much. I love meeting new people, you know, and just having such impact and telling these really, really cool and unique stories that a lot of times you wouldn't hear about.
You know, that's amazing in the sense that, you know, people always say, follow your dreams, follow your instincts, do what you love. And I mean, that brings me back to singing. I love singing. I love modeling. I love dancing. There's so many things, but then Caribbean parents, well, I should say my dad. my mom was like, she loved everything I do. She just didn't want me to model. She's like, I don't want you to be naked out there. I was like, Mom, I don't know where naked is coming from, but
I don't want to stream.
Yeah, you know. So I sang in church. I sang in my school. I just loved it. I knew I loved music. I would record everything. I'd write everything down. You know? And so when I came here, I was like, it's too broad. It's too big. You know, let me try something else. What did I do? I just end up going into business and stuff like that. And then met someone who brought me into voiceovers. And that opened a whole new world for me. You know, because you can still use your voice. And then meeting someone who said, oh, you know what, you want to work for me and do the camera? Then I became a photographer. And it's something I love doing, you know? Everybody's story might be different from how they got into something, but hearing the passion in what you did and how you're like, no, I don't like this, and I'll go into something else. It's truly amazing.
Yeah. Well, when you go into these things, you had to find like someone who influenced you, and you said, okay, I want to do what they're doing. Who was the person that, because when I think of producers, I don't think of, and no disrespect or anything, because I don't see a Black person. And so you had to have had someone you wanted to like say, okay, I want to be like her, or, you know, or him. Who was that person?
I had a person. Well, I mean, it's gonna sound extremely cliche, but truly Oprah. Like I can't tell you how many times I've applied to. So I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I was born in Trinidad, moved to the US when I was younger, right? And I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and that's when Oprah had Harpo Studios and like all the productions and stuff like that. So I can't tell you how many jobs I applied to at Harpo Studios once I was in college and stuff. And I never got a job there, but but I was like inspired because for me, like, it was like telling those kinds of stories. Because I love the graphic, even when I was co-creating the art series for, and it's actually now nationally syndicated on PBS, but it was the creating content that is impactful. Like, I believe that, like, for me, I believe in purpose, and I know we're talking a little bit about spirituality, you know, God a little bit in the beginning, like a little while ago. But for me, like, I really am intentional about living a very purposeful life. But sometimes I may not know what I'm doing next, or it might not be that clear to me because I'm weighing my options. But for me, it's like seeing a Black woman too, because, you know, it's important that we see ourselves. Because even when I'm on sets now, a lot of times I might be the only Black person, or I might be the only Black producer, or for even one of the shows, the last shows I did, I was the only woman on the team, and I was leading a team of men because I was essentially I was the head of the team, the creative head of the team, and I was directing only a team of men. So that's just become something that's, that is unfortunately just what it is, in this business. In my personal life, I've worked with some really amazing women producers. Have also been really great examples of how to lead large shows, lead with integrity, and also lead with just kindness, because I do think that's important. And a lot of times you see people that don't operate in kindness, because I've worked with the opposite. And so I've had kind of good examples of really great leadership, and I've also had examples of not so great leadership, and I've kind of like been using that to kind of steer me into how I want to be then whenever I'm in certain positions.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my God. There's so many questions and so many more.
Yes.
I want you to keep talking. It's like, come on, girl.
And she's answered a few of the questions.
Yes.
The part with being the only Black person, that was one of my questions, because, it could be challenging, being the only colored person there, the only female. And I know in entertainment industry, I always say it's a man's world, where you find yourself in a pit, the pit, where you take pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you're the only girl. But what I enjoy is that they respect you. If they know you in the industry, they'll respect you and give you your space. If you have to shoot, or if you have to take pictures, or whatever type of jobs. Some jobs are like that. Have you ever experienced that, where you have to get over this hurdle of the type of people that you're working with who's not respecting you? Or
I definitely have. Yeah, I definitely have. I did a show a couple of years ago, which now I've moved past it, but at that point it was the worst show I've ever done in my life. And I hated it. And it was the first time I ever thought about quitting a show. I got the position I was in was the producing capacity I was in. I had a kind of like hired to kind of like lead a team. It was a very small team, just me and one other person, but it was essentially leading a team. But I had an executive producer who was a really kind of awful person, very misogynistic, very much, he kind of liked to kind of foster very much like a boys club type of environment, where he specifically even at a point asked that like, he was just very rude. He was rude, he was unkind, he would do a lot of things without planning. And it's a given that especially with unscripted, that like things change, so you just adapt, and I've become accustomed to that. But it was to the point where it would be like extreme circumstances. And it was really stressful. I've never felt so stressed in a job. And to the point where I actually became physically sick from the job. Then I had a whole other array of like health things that I was working through while working on this particular job. And it was a really great lesson for me in how I never want to be in that position. When as an executive producer, I never want to be the kind of person that belittles people or makes them feel less than, or speaks to them in any kind of condescending way, or really just doesn't appreciate your team. So it was a lesson in that sense. But also it was a lesson for me to not take on people, because I found myself, because I take so much pride in doing a great job whenever I'm hired to do a show, and like learn whatever lessons I'm supposed to learn to help me to become better. But I had taken on so much stress from that person that I ended up, like I said, getting sick. And I said, never again would I ever let anybody, so now I work in a way where I don't take on stress. If I don't even ingest it. And also that particular position taught me how to also speak up for myself, because I had to tell that person, do not speak to me in that condescending way. So it was also a way for me to start to, because, I'm very pleasant and like nice. And so sometimes people kind of take your kindness for weakness.
They do.
But it was, so it was a way for me to say, I'm nice, but don't try me. And it was a male-centric environment. So it was also working in that with somebody that purposely had it as a male-centric environment. And I found that after that, he was a little bit more aware of it. Surprisingly, I didn't end up leaving the show, but it made sense to me that one of the producers, the female producers I was working with, she did leave the show because of this kind of the work environment. And I realized that it was a lot of instances with the same person
Mhm.
that where a lot of women refused to work with him or would leave the job or would have all these issues, that it was a common theme with this particular person. And since then, I finished the show, moved about my life, and I found out later that he actually was fired from the company, but not because of any of the complaints of the woman that spoke up. He was fired because a white man actually spoke up and said something.
Oh,
Although,
wow.
yeah, so
I guess it's a type of environment and a type of position where you really have to be confident in who you are. If you're going to, the squeaky mouse, you can't do it. Because you're surrounded by males, a lot of males, and you have to be bold. You have to be you.
Yeah.
And the only way you can do it is to be you.
Yeah.
And say, look, I'm stepping in here, whether you like it or not. Back down if you want to, but I'm here.
Yeah.
I like that. That was the lesson you got, and it looks like you thrived with it. So well done to you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. And then I'm like, I hope I don't, because you're like, oh God, because I hate being in awkward situations like that. Or nobody likes discomfort, really.
No, especially at the job.
Confrontation. I hate confrontation. So then, but it was essential, I think, because I'm the type of person that hates confrontation like that. It's like you're kind of like backed into a wall. We have to say something because you have to speak up for yourself at a point, you know what I mean? And you can't be just kind of run over,
Yeah. All those jobs, I mean, in entertainment, when you go on the interviews, some will tell you you have to have a backbone. You cannot take things, and feel insecure about it because people are going to tell you about yourself. The entertainment industry is one of those that could be really, really cruel,
So then that is something that you would have to, like, my next question would have been to you is what would you say to someone who wants to be a producer and wants to get out there and do what you're doing? Like, what would be something that you would say to someone like that? Like, the hardest hurdle that you are going to have to cross is, I'm allowing you to answer that.
Well, that's a great question. You said the hardest hurdle. I think it might potentially be fear. So, and I feel like, and that's just overall life.
You just went biblical on us. Because fear is something that Omari spoke about. Fear is something that you must never accept because God didn't give you the spirit of fear. So go on. I'm loving your answers.
It's true. And it's something that I feel like as I go through each different season of my life or whatever period that I'm in, that it's another hurdle that I have to overcome. And I have to be very active in like choosing, like if to let this fear overtake me. Because even whenever even when I got hired to do Love is Blind, I was nervous and scared because I was like, oh my gosh, this is Netflix, so it's like, and at that point, it was the biggest show I had done.
Right.
It required international travel. It required a lot of stuff and it required a lot of me. And I didn't have a team, but a lot of times first season shows, they're still figuring it out. Next season, after you figured out and somehow made a way through it, then it's much easier for the second season team because you work through all the things that you should have done. Mm-hmm. I think the one thing is fear because especially if you choose to be a freelance producer, one, you have to be bold, or you have to go out and you have to connect and you have to network. Fear, not to let fear. I mean, of course, I think it's natural to have fear seep in at different times. You might be scared, especially if you choose the freelance world. Yeah, you might be scared because you don't know when your next job necessarily might be coming from because you work different shows, so it's like you're staffed on one show, that show's done, then you have to find another job. So it's like that kind of thing, which initially in the beginning, when I first started freelancing, I was like, oh my gosh, well, how do I do this? And like navigate it, because in the beginning, I didn't even know what freelancing really meant, because my first job outside of college was as an associate producer for this country music series. And that was a staff position at a production company. So I hadn't really wrapped my head around that much about what it meant to freelance. And I just thought, okay, this is what you do. And then that particular production company had a massive layoff and they ended up going under. So for me, that was like a moment because I allowed myself to get so comfortable in not really networking that much because I was with this company for a year. Over the course, we shot 2 seasons of the show, and I wasn't networking as much. I became very comfortable in that environment, and like just going to work and working on the show and, going home. And it was a lesson in me to not get comfortable, so that I should always continue working on myself. But then it also taught, like, that was the kind of impetus into starting to freelance. And I literally went, and at that time I was living in Dallas, and there really is not a big production community in Dallas, like at least with like, so I had saw a posting that a show, I think it was like Extreme Weight Loss or something. They were looking for people to sit in their audience. So I told my dad, I said, okay, you're gonna come with me and we're gonna go sit in the audience of the show. And I'm gonna go try to talk to them and see if there's any way that I could work with them on the show.
Wow.
So then we went to go sit in the audience, and because of course I was on a mission. And when I was there, I ended up talking to one of the ladies there who was, I think she was like the production coordinator or something. And I told her, like, I really would like to, work on the show. Is there any opportunity to work on the show with you guys? And she was like, well, I can't pay you or anything, but there's an opportunity, I'm looking to hire a production assistant that might be able to help us tomorrow. We have a shoot someplace far. It ended up being like an hour away. She was like, we have the shoots. I can't pay you, but if you could do it, that would be great. So I ended up going with her, or I ended up driving the hour the next day, helping them. Because at that point, I had never been a production assistant. I had taken a kind of a different route where, because I had already produced in college, then when I got out of college, because I had so many responsibilities on the show that I worked on in college, that the job I got, the country music series, was one that I was an associate producer right away. So I had never been a production assistant. So it was a very good opportunity then for me to do that job, because I had no idea about even the simple things that, as you've worked in the industry for a while as a producer, even knowing how to change a walkie battery, because when we're on set, you communicate through walkie. So I had no idea how that works. So this particular young lady helped me and showed me how to work a walkie, like what walkie language is, like all these things that are basic to people that work in the business that I didn't know because I had never done it. So it ended up being a great opportunity because even though I didn't get paid, she did tell me that if she has another opportunity again, she'd hire me and would pay me for that, because she was very appreciative. Yeah. She actually did. But doing that job for free is what actually helped me to start getting other jobs. Just like not letting fear overtake you, because the reality is, even when I thought I had a very comfortable environment with my staff job at that production company in Dallas, I learned very early, you don't ever know what's going to happen. So there's really no point in you being fearful. And I feel like I'm always reminded, because you get a little scared at times with different things, like, oh my God. But it's been like a constant journey of that, but also you have to also trust your process and your journey, because everybody has a different journey, especially in this business. Like you might be working one day with one person, and you're a production assistant, you work with them again 2 years from now, and they're an executive producer. So it's like you just never know, but you don't know their story or what they might have gone through, and like trusting your journey and your process, because everybody's on their own path. Like I have friends, so if you can't be comparing yourself to other people, but you have to kind of be open to whatever your journey is, but also be open to putting yourself out there and going to meet people and being kind, because nobody wants to work with anybody that's unpleasant, Yeah. So I would give them that very long piece of advice,
That is so true. I mean, everything she's saying, just it brings you back to experiences that you had before. And as you're saying that, you have to know and you have to trust the process. Yeah. One of my questions I had for you was, do people take advantage of you because, you look very young and you had all these experiences, and we know that you never ask a woman her age. So I don't want to know your age. I just want to, how have you, done it where people come up to you and they might disrespect you just because they think, oh, she's young, she doesn't know what she's doing, but doesn't know the catalog you have that you carried yourself.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know, because then sometimes I'm not like, for me, I take such pride in my work. So then I'm like very focused. Like even when I'm joining a new show, I'm like, okay, to me, the biggest compliment you could give me is how my work is, and how, whatever it is that the work is, or whatever, how well the team is going that I'm running, or whatever it is, But I have had instances where somebody that was my associate producer, that was older than me, and once she found out my age, that I was significantly younger than her, I could tell that was an issue. And I mean, that's like, this is how old I am, but it's a weird thing to navigate with age. I kind of try not to think about it too much. I don't, because then there's also the opposite end. And I think it's especially in particular for women, but also Black women, because you see a lot of men and like even older men working in the business, but I feel like I don't often see a lot of women working in the business that are like older, because there probably is some level of ageism, or people might not hire you because they think that you can't connect with cast, or you can't, because of your age or whatnot. But I haven't had a ton of experiences with that. And I think because a lot of the people that I've worked with overall are kind of around the same age. I haven't had a lot of experiences with that, but oh my God.
That's good. You've had producers who said, I work with a musician and they think that I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm like, I got this. It's not my age, it's what I know, and try to follow instructions. Some people would probably be like, no, I think I'll do it this way, but no, I want you to do it this way because of X, Y, and Z, because of my experience.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying, that type of stuff.
Yeah, now that you mentioned, I've had those kind of instances too, where people, do think that, or they're, I don't know, sometimes people don't have an ego.
They question your authority sometimes.
Yeah.
That you're younger. Yeah.
They do, or like working with, thankfully I've had overall really great camera people or camera guys that I've worked with, but sometimes they do question you, especially as a woman or a Black woman coming in, and you're the one that's literally calling the shots. Yeah. So like you're planning the shoot, there's a reason why you have everything happening a certain way, because you're following the story, but also, different things that are coming up. You also know different sensitive. So you do have people that might question your authority or might not understand why you're doing things a certain way, because they just want to like wrap up and, because as a producer, your job doesn't just end when the camera is done. You have to, before the shoot and after the shoot, to have the shoot, and during the shoot too. So that has happened to me before.
So it sounds like you had some great experiences besides, a positive person. Some things don't really bother you as much unless someone literally comes to bother your safety or something,
It's true, because sometimes you can't take on people, like, okay. Because also I feel like in this capacity, you observe people so much, so then it's like, I feel like I've developed and continue to develop a way where you kind of observe people, and so you kind of have an idea. It's like, okay, how this person operates, or like you see it, you go. So then it's like, okay, well then how can I work with this type of personality type? Because the reality is they're probably not going to get fired, or something's not going to happen to them that they're not on the show anymore. So I have a job to do. So how do I do my job and also not have these people stressing me out, because I can't work in stress,
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and we do so many, like typically I probably do about 3 to 5 shows in a year. And with that, then it's different people. It's like, there is a rare circumstance where you might work with the similar people or different people that you've worked with before, which is nice if you like them. But if you like working with them before, but so then that helps a little bit.
We have to have you back on.
We have to have you back. Yeah, when you have another project or something, or you have a project you could talk about, and we just zone in on that.
And that's really what I want to do. So hopefully there will be an opportunity. I'm going to speak it into existence, because I do want to start create my own content. And again with the whole thing with fear, getting out of, my head, or like, because you haven't done something before, like but really to step into that too.
Yeah. I just have one more question that I usually ask everyone just to, I mean, I think you gave us all the answers already.
She sure did. You went all
Yes. This is one question that I usually ask people, because sometimes when you look back in life, you say, okay, this is what I would have done. So what would you tell your younger self? What advice would you give your younger self? If you have to go back in time?
It's weird because on one hand, I'm the kind of person that I'm like, okay, I don't have regrets necessarily, because I feel like things happen for a reason. So therefore, it was something I had to go through to learn it, or whether it was a difficult route or not.
Yeah. And you followed through with everything. That's the amazing part. Like from your Barbies to, it just seemed like you knew that this wasn't for me and I'm going for this. And
I guess so, in a sense, but I do think that there's always still a period, like even now I feel like I'm in a period of transition where, like before when I started out, now I'm very much more mindful, and I think just learning of certain, when working in the business for a while, because now it's been 10 years now that I've been doing different TV things, different TV shows and producing. But I'm just very particular with the kind of shows that I do, because I very much am trying to do things that, because sometimes the work can be very exhausting. You're spending so much time away from your family or away from your loved ones. You're working maybe like 14, 15, 16 plus hour days. So you're very tired. You're driving home. You're going to sleep. But it takes a lot of mental work. It may not be as physical as much, but it's a lot because you're creating, and you're also thinking of ideas, or like organizing or coordinating or working on a lot heavy logistics. So that is a lot. So I find now that I'm valuing more really my personal time too, and like also finding jobs that really make me feel good about what I'm doing. Because like there's certain shows that I don't like to do. Like I don't like to do drama shows like that have like, fighting, like, like unnecessary things, so I'm even more so mindful of the projects that I choose, because then it's like, I want to be able to go home and also feel good about what I'm producing. So I'm not going to choose any show. I've even turned down some shows, even when I don't have a job, like to say like, okay, well, that I don't want to do that. I know that's going to be too exhausting, or just kind of being more mindful of that. So I feel like I'm in a period now of transition where I don't necessarily know what I'm going to do next, but just, starting to also step out even more so on faith, and hopefully stop procrastinating and start, doing some of the stuff that I feel that my spirit is being led to do.
Yeah, that's great. And all that is an experience. I think whatever you experienced before basically told you or showed you, okay, this is, as you said, what I don't want to do,
Yeah.
You've done certain things before, so now it's the next level. All right, it was great. Oh, Juliette, do you have any other questions?
No, I was just gonna say, I know we're gonna see some amazing things come from you. I feel it. I know your energy is amazing, and I appreciate it. I can't wait to
think about you guys. I really do.
Thank you. We can't wait to have you back so you can tell us all about your next project.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah, would you speak it into existence?
Exactly.
That's right. Put it there.
Could you tell our audience where they can find you, your handles, your IG, your Instagram? Where?
Sure. My Instagram page is Trini, TRINI __ TEA.
We'll have all of your information below on the page. We'll also have it on Instagram, so you guys can just go on there and click there, like, subscribe.
That concludes our interview with Tamara John. We thank you, and we'll see you guys next time on Table Talk with Nikki G and Juliette.
And one thing to interject, we have to pick up Mr. Bella. We have to say that we're from Trinidad, Mr. Bella.
Yes. You have to pick up Mr. Bella. Yeah.
Of course.
Well, thank you guys much. It was so lovely chatting with you.
You
Yes.
too.
I'll see you next time down by Bola. You know, we'll go have a drink down there. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Next
we're gonna go
time.
there for drinks and pool.
Yes. Yes. Sounds like a date.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Until next time.
Table talk. Table talk.
Bye.
The name says it all.
Table Talk Show with Nikki G and Juliette.
Nikki G and Juliette.